Ford has produced some of the most iconic cars in American history, but not every gamble paid off. Sometimes, bold ideas lead to unforgettable classics. Other times, they crash and burn. In this chapter, we explore 7 Ford cars that are either unapologetically cool or memorably terrible, and in some cases, both.
Dear viewer, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support.
Number 7. The 1968 Ford Torino GT Fastback represents a pivotal moment in the evolution of American performance cars. Introduced as part of the new mid-size Torino lineup, the GT Fastback was more than just a sporty variant. It was a deliberate push by Ford to compete in the muscle car wars of the late 1960s. With sleek fastback styling, a powerful V8 menu, and Ford's racing-inspired heritage, the Torino GT emerged as both a stylish street machine and a capable drag strip contender. In 1968, Ford restructured its Fairlane series, creating the Torino as a more upscale and sporty submodel. The muscle car market was already in full swing, with the Pontiac GTO, Dodge Charger, and Chevy Chevelle SS dominating headlines. Ford needed something that could match these titans, and the Torino GT Fastback was aimed squarely at that niche. The GT was positioned above the base Torino models and Fairlanes, offering unique styling cues, upgraded suspension, and serious powertrain options. Its fastback design wasn't just for looks, it gave it a distinctive silhouette that echoed Ford's NASCAR ambitions. The Torino GT Fastback was unmistakable. With its long, sloping rear roofline, sculpted side panels, and recessed grille, it looked aggressive even when parked. The GT badge on the grille, rocker panel trim, and optional hood scoops added muscle car flair. Dual exhaust tips hinted at the power within, and Magnum 500 wheels gave it the correct street presence. Interior-wise, the GT came with upgraded vinyl trim, bucket seats, optional, a floor shifter for the automatic or 4-speed manual, and a sport steering wheel. Though not as luxurious as full-size Fords, it had enough style to feel a notch above a regular Fairlane. Buyers in 1968 could choose from several engines for the Torino GT Fastback. The base GT came with a 302 cubic inch V8 producing 210 horsepower, adequate but not earth-shattering. Step up to the 390 V8 and output jumped to 325 horsepower. But the real muscle came from the legendary 428 Cobra Jet V8. The optional 428 Cobra Jet, officially rated at 335 horsepower, but known to produce more in reality, turned the Torino GT into a sleeper. With this engine, the car could run the quarter mile in the low 14-second range, putting it in serious muscle car territory. Paired with a close-ratio 4-speed manual and optional traction lock rear differential, it could surprise many unsuspecting challengers. Though large and heavy compared to early muscle cars, the Torino GT Fastback handled better than many expected. Ford included heavy-duty suspension bits, wider tires, and front disc brakes, optional, making it capable of more than just straight-line runs. It was a true GT car in the sense that it combined power and cruising comfort, able to devour highway miles or put on a show at the local drag strip. The Torino's fastback design wasn't just about aesthetics, it was part of Ford's strategy for stock car racing. The aerodynamic roofline helped reduce drag at high speeds, giving the Torino an edge in NASCAR. Though the Torino Talladega would take this concept further in 1969, the 1968 GT Fastback laid the groundwork. While it didn't achieve the cultural status of the Mustang or Charger, the Torino GT Fastback found a loyal fan base. It was often featured in regional racing circuits and became a favorite among gearheads looking for a big-bodied, high-powered coupe without the insurance penalties of a Mustang or GTO. Today, the 1968 Torino GT Fastback is somewhat of an underrated classic. It sits in the shadow of more famous nameplates, but delivers just as much excitement. Models equipped with the Cobra Jet engine are especially sought after, though even 390 GTs have gained appreciation in the collector market. Restorers and hot rodders alike are drawn to its bold fastback lines and relative rarity. It's a reminder that Ford's performance prowess wasn't limited to Mustangs. The 1968 Ford Torino GT Fastback may not be the most talked about muscle car of the era, but it deserves recognition as a stylish, powerful, and well-rounded machine. With its sloping lines, big block options, and legitimate racing DNA, it was Ford's unspoken answer to the muscle car revolution. For enthusiasts looking beyond the usual suspects, the Torino GT Fastback is a gem worth remembering.
Number 6. By 1967, the American muscle car craze was fully ignited, and Ford was determined not to be left behind. While the Mustang grabbed headlines as a pony car, the Fairlane GT and GTA represented Ford's mid-size muscle option, more substantial than a Mustang, but still far from a full-size bruiser like the Galaxy. Positioned between economy and luxury, the Fairlane GT GTA gave performance enthusiasts something serious to chew on. With big block power under the hood and no-nonsense styling, these models delivered on both muscle and street credibility. The 1967 Fairlane GT came standard with a 390 cubic inch V8 producing 335 horsepower, a serious number for the time, especially in a lighter mid-size frame. The GT designation applied to cars equipped with a 4-speed manual transmission, while GTA meant it came with Ford's 3-speed Cruise-O-Matic automatic gearbox. Mechanically, they were nearly identical, but the transmission set the tone for the car's personality. The GT was for the rowdy driver who wanted to bang gears, while the GTA aimed at customers who wanted performance with a little more ease and refinement. The Fairlane GT GTA had clean, tight body lines, much less bloated than many of the full-size models of the era. A dual-scooped hood, functional in appearance if not always in effect, GT badging, and optional mag-style wheels gave it muscle car cues without screaming for attention. Its long, straight fenders and sloping rear roofline conveyed speed even when parked. Inside, bucket seats, a center console, and sporty trim elevated it above your average commuter sedan, but it never crossed over into the land of garish excess. The 390 cubic inch V8 was the same basic engine used in Ford's bigger cars and trucks, but in the Fairlane's more compact chassis, it turned the car into a legitimate street contender. Producing 335 horsepower and 427 pound-feet of torque, it delivered strong acceleration, 0 to 60 in around 6.5 seconds, depending on rear-end gearing and options. That wasn't just quick for 1967, it was quick, period. The GT's 4-speed allowed drivers to get the most from the high-revving V8, while the GTA's automatic made it more livable in traffic. The GT GTA was never a canyon carver, but its lighter body and tighter wheelbase gave it an edge over the full-size muscle cars in responsiveness. Standard suspension tweaks like heavy-duty springs, front sway bars, and wider tires helped control body roll and improve road feel. That said, it still rode like a traditional American car, soft with noticeable lean in corners. Straight line performance was its strong suit. The Fairlane GT and GTA helped bridge the gap between Ford's youth-oriented Mustang and its larger, more conservative Galaxy and LTD lines. While they never reached the cultural icon status of some rivals, they were instrumental in Ford's muscle car evolution. The GT GTA planted the seeds for the Torino GT that followed in 1968 and offered one of the more balanced muscle experiences of the era, powerful but practical. Today, they are overshadowed by their Mustang and Torino descendants, but that just makes them more interesting for collectors and enthusiasts who want something with authentic muscle car soul, and just a little under-the-radar cool. The 1967 Fairlane GT and GTA represented a sweet spot in Ford's muscle car lineup: big block power, compact dimensions, and no-frills performance. Whether you preferred to row your own gears or let the automatic do the work, you were getting one of the most underrated muscle machines of the late 60s. Not flashy, not bloated, just fast.
Number 5. The 1965 Ford Falcon Sprint is one of the most underappreciated performance cars of the mid-1960s. Often overshadowed by its younger sibling, the Mustang, the Falcon Sprint was actually the original performance compact in Ford's lineup. Lightweight, V8-powered, and nimble, it was a legitimate muscle car in a smaller, more understated package. It carried many of the same ingredients that would make the Mustang a household name, but with less flash and a more reserved personality. The Falcon was introduced in 1960 as Ford's answer to the compact car boom. By the mid-1960s, however, Ford began to realize that buyers wanted more than just economy. They wanted performance, especially younger drivers. That's where the Falcon Sprint came in. First introduced in 1963, the Sprint package offered a sportier edge to the humble Falcon. But by 1965, it had matured into a serious little machine. This was also the final year of the first-generation Falcon body before a major redesign, making the 65 Sprint a culmination of all Ford had learned about small car performance. The 1965 Falcon Sprint carried a clean, conservative design. It had subtle horizontal lines, minimal ornamentation, and tasteful chrome accents. The Sprint-specific trim added a hint of performance flair, special badging, unique wheel covers, and optional rally stripes. But unlike the Mustang, which was loud and proud, the Falcon Sprint played it cool. You had to know what you were looking at to realize it was something special. The interior was upgraded with bucket seats, a floor-mounted shifter, and a sportier dash layout compared to the base Falcons. For the time, it felt modern, youthful, and performance-oriented without being flashy. Here's where the Falcon Sprint earned its stripes. Under the hood was Ford's 289 cubic inch V8, the same small block that powered the early Mustangs and Fairlanes. With up to 225 horsepower in 4-barrel form, this lightweight car could move. A choice of a 3-speed automatic or 4-speed manual transmission gave it driver-focused appeal. Its unibody construction and short wheelbase made it nimble, especially in comparison to the larger, full-sized cars of the era. The handling wasn't exactly sports car sharp by today's standards, but it was more than respectable in 1965. Braking came via drums on all 4 corners, but optional front desks were available. What really made the Sprint unique was its power-to-weight ratio. At just under 2,700 pounds, it could run circles around many heavier V8 cars and keep up with the best of the new compacts. The 1965 Falcon Sprint and 1965 Mustang shared the same platform and much of the same drivetrain. In fact, the early Mustangs were little more than reskinned Falcons underneath. This means the Sprint was a sort of sleeper Mustang, without the flash, without the fame, but with all the essentials. For performance enthusiasts in the know, the Falcon was the smarter buy, cheaper, less common, and easier to modify. Despite its solid credentials, the Falcon Sprint was quickly eclipsed by the explosive popularity of the Mustang. In 1965 alone, Ford sold over 500,000 Mustangs, and barely a fraction of that in Falcons. This meant the Sprint fell into obscurity, remembered only by die-hard Ford fans and muscle car historians. Today, that makes it something of a hidden treasure. Clean examples are rare and increasingly sought after by collectors who recognize its performance DNA and historical importance. The 1965 Ford Falcon Sprint was a pioneer, an agile, powerful compact that helped lay the groundwork for the muscle car boom. With its V8 power, clean design, and Mustang-shared platform, it deserves more credit than it's often given. It might not have the name recognition of its pony car cousin, but it offers a pure, honest driving experience that muscle car purists can still appreciate today. A true underdog, and one of the coolest sleepers of the 1960s.
Number 4. In 1962, Ford unleashed a special edition of its personal luxury car that remains one of the most visually dramatic American convertibles of the early 1960s, the Thunderbird Sports Roadster. With its blend of high-style, muscular V8 performance and unique styling elements, this T-Bird wasn't just a car, it was a rolling symbol of early 60s optimism and jet-age influence. From the moment you laid eyes on the 1962 Sports Roadster, it was clear this wasn't your average convertible. Based on the third-generation Thunderbird Bulletbird platform, the Roadster took the swooping lines and space-age curves of the base model and turned the drama up several notches. What truly set the sports Roadster apart was its fiberglass tonneau cover, a sleek molding that covered the rear seats and transformed the car into a sporty two-seater. Paired with Kelsey Hayes 48-spoke wire wheels, the car took on a European Grand Tourer look, even while remaining unmistakably American. The faux air scoops on the doors and the bold grille only enhanced its already commanding presence. Step inside, and the sports Roadster delivered a cabin that was more aircraft cockpit than automobile. The wraparound dash, swing-away steering wheel, and padded surfaces were all futuristic features in their day. Bucket seats and a center console gave the interior a sporty flair, but the quality materials and plush design reminded you that this was still a personal luxury car, not a stripped-down performance coupe. Under the hood, the 1962 Sports Roadster came standard with a 390 cubic inch V8, producing 300 horsepower. Although optional versions with higher output were available, including the M-Code Tri-Power setup, which bumped output to a substantial 340 horsepower. Backed by Ford's Cruise-O-Matic automatic transmission, the Thunderbird wasn't a track car, but it had ample torque to move its considerable weight with authority. It offered confident, refined acceleration and an effortless highway cruising experience, making it ideal for long, stylish road trips. Only 1,427 sports Roadsters were built in 1962, making them rare then and even more coveted now. While the idea of combining performance with luxury was beginning to emerge across the industry, the sports Roadster boldly previewed the personal luxury performance niche that would grow in the years ahead. It also helped reinforce the Thunderbird's evolution from a two-seater sports car in 1955 into a luxury status symbol with jet-age styling and serious street presence. While some criticized its weight and overstyling, others praised its unique design language and ability to turn heads. The 1962 Ford Thunderbird Sports Roadster may not have been a tire-melting muscle car or a nimble sports coupe, but it carved out a unique identity. It was confident, stylish, and unapologetically over the top. In an era obsessed with the space race and futuristic design, the sports Roadster captured the spirit of its time better than most cars could dream. Today, it stands as a gleaming tribute to a bold, expressive period in American automotive design, a time when form mattered just as much as function, and when a convertible could truly feel like it came from the future.
Number 3. The 1960 Ford Starliner. This car wasn't just another full-size offering from Ford. It was a bold attempt to inject jet-age design and a futuristic look into a car that could both cruise the boulevard and dominate on the drag strip. Though not as commercially successful or culturally dominant as some of its contemporaries, the Starliner carved out a niche as a stylish, aerodynamic, and surprisingly potent coupe. Let's explore what made the 1960s Starliner unforgettable. By 1960, Ford was engaged in a fierce competition with Chevrolet, which had just released its own space-age designs and was dominating in sales. Ford needed something that stood out, not just in appearance, but in performance and identity. The Starliner, introduced as a sub-series of the Galaxy line, represented Ford's most daring design language of the era. It was named after the age of space exploration and air travel, and looked the part. The defining characteristic of the 1960 Starliner was its long, sweeping roofline and massive wraparound rear glass. This thin pillar hardtop design gave the car an incredibly sleek silhouette that emphasized motion even at a standstill. Roofline. The Starliner's roof was unique, low, aerodynamic, and visually light thanks to the thin C-pillars and curved glass. Jet-inspired styling. The grille, tail fins, and side trim all echoed aviation motifs, aligning with the space race and cultural obsession with all things futuristic. Length and proportion. At over 210 inches long, the Starliner had presence, but its long hood, short rear deck proportions, and slim roof made it appear even sleeker than many full-size rivals. Inside, the Starliner delivered typical full-size Ford comfort, with wide bench seats and sweeping dash panels. However, it wasn't just about size. It felt upscale and driver-focused compared to its more conservative Galaxy siblings. Instrumentation, large round dials and symmetrical design hinted at a cockpit layout. Space, 6 adults could ride comfortably, though rear visibility suffered slightly due to the fastback glass. While the Starliner looked like a cruiser, it had serious muscle under the hood if optioned right. Engines, standard 223 cubic inch inline-6 or a 292 V8. Optional, 352, 360, and up to the high-performance 352 Ci Interceptor V8, delivering up to 300 horsepower. Transmission options. Buyers could choose between a 3-speed manual, overdrive, or Ford's Cruise-O-Matic automatic. Racing pedigree. Ford quietly used the Starliner's slippery shape and lightweight build in NASCAR, where it became a dominant force in 1960 to 61. Despite its beauty and performance, the Starliner was not a commercial hit. Buyers often preferred the more formal-looking Galaxy Town hardtop. The extreme fastback design sacrificed some rear headroom and visibility. It was discontinued after 1961 and replaced by more conservative Galaxy styling. But among collectors and design enthusiasts, the Starliner has become a cult classic, a car that dared to go full space age and didn't apologize for it. Today, the 1960 Ford Starliner is prized for its futuristic looks and rarity. Its NASCAR lineage, clean design, and distinctive rear glass make it a standout at vintage car shows. Desirability. The big block models, especially with manual transmissions, are the most sought after. Survivors. Fewer of these were built than you might expect, especially when compared to Impalas of the same era. Customization. The sleek lines made the Starliner a favorite among customizers and hot rodders. The 1960 Ford Starliner was a one-year-only marvel that blended performance, futuristic styling, and aerodynamic innovation. While it may have been underappreciated in its time, it now stands as a shining example of a period when American automakers weren't afraid to dream big and build bold. It wasn't the best seller, but it didn't need to be. The Starliner's role was to look ahead, to signal a future full of speed, space, and sleek design. And in that, it succeeded brilliantly. Fun fact: the Starliner name would briefly reappear as a Ford concept in the early 2000s, proving that its original spirit still captures imaginations decades later. Number 2. The 1969 Ford Ranchero GT was more than just a niche vehicle. It was a bold fusion of two distinctly American passions: muscle car power and pickup practicality. Falling somewhere between a Mustang and an F-100, the Ranchero GT wasn't just about moving stuff. It was about moving fast with style. In 1969, Ford gave this car-truck hybrid some serious teeth, especially in GT trim. The Ranchero debuted in 1957, 2 years before Chevrolet's El Camino. But by 1969, it had firmly established itself as a unique alternative to both muscle cars and traditional pickups. Based on the intermediate Fairlane/Torino chassis, the Ranchero of the late 1960s was longer, lower, and more aggressive than its predecessors. Ford aimed the Ranchero GT at buyers who wanted muscle car looks and engine options but still needed a usable bed in the back. It blurred lines, not quite a work truck, but not a boulevard cruiser either. The 1969 model year brought a mild redesign to the Ranchero line, which was now based on the freshened Ford Torino Fairlane bodywork. The Ranchero GT adopted this look, gaining a wide grille, hidden headlight option, GT badging, and unique trim.
The long hood and fastback style lines made it instantly more muscular. The rear bed kept the utility, but the sides were dressed up with body striping, GT emblems, and optional Magnum 500 wheels, giving it a muscle car street cred. Here's where the GT name really mattered. Buyers could opt for a variety of engines, but the GT trim came with serious muscle options. 302 cube-inch V8, standard. 351 Windsor or Cleveland V8s. 390 cube-inch FE big block V8. Or, for those with serious intentions, the legendary 428 Cobra Jet V8. 335 horsepower, available with or without ram air. With a 4-speed manual and the 428 CJ, the Ranchero GT wasn't just posing, it was capable of true quarter-mile authority, rivaling more traditional muscle coupes. It handled like a car, hauled like a truck, and sounded like a street brawler. Optional dual exhaust, GT suspension upgrades, and power front disc brakes made it more than just cosmetic. Interior and features, workhorse with comfort. Inside, the GT trim offered upscale appointments for a vehicle with a bed. Bucket seats, optional center console, padded dash, full instrumentation, and vinyl trim gave it Torino-level comfort. Air conditioning, AM/FM radio, and other options pushed it into near-luxury territory, unusual for something with tailgate latches in the back. While never a top seller, the 1969 Ranchero GT carved out a loyal fan base. It appealed to small business owners, gearheads, and even weekend drag racers. It was never meant to outsell the Mustang, but it was meant to give you something Mustang-like with more practicality. The Ranchero GT also carried a certain rebellious charm. It didn't fit neatly into car or truck categories, and that made it cool. Today, it's overshadowed by the El Camino in popular memory, but many collectors are rediscovering the Ranchero for its rarity, powertrain variety, and style. By 1970, the Ranchero would evolve further, becoming even larger and more Torino-influenced. But the 1969 model remains a sweet spot. Small enough to be nimble, big enough to haul, and muscular enough to surprise at the stoplight. It was one of the last truly hybrid machines before emissions and insurance costs began softening the muscle era. The Ranchero GT of 1969 stands today as an icon of bold design, multi-purpose engineering, and forgotten cool. The 1969 Ford Ranchero GT wasn't just a car, and wasn't just a truck. It was a personality on wheels. And if you wanted performance, utility, and style in one loud, chrome-laced package, it was the only ride that delivered all three.
Number 1. In 1960, Ford was riding high on the success of its second-generation Thunderbird. No longer just a sporty two-seater like its predecessor from 1955 to 57, the 1960 T-Bird was a bold reinterpretation, longer, wider, heavier, and now a four-seater aimed at a different kind of customer. With jet-age flair, a strong V8 lineup, and a newfound luxury identity, this square bird, as enthusiasts call it, played a pivotal role in shaping the personal luxury car segment. The 1960 Thunderbird was the final year of the second-generation redesign, introduced in 1958, but it refined the formula to near perfection. Visually, it was low-slung, wide, and imposing, a stark contrast to the curvy two-seater original. The 1960 model featured a flatter, more formal roofline, especially on the hardtop, reinforcing its upscale presence. Dual headlamps integrated into sculpted front fenders that evoked jet nacelles, a nod to aviation influences of the time. Bullet-style taillights and pronounced rear fins that blended futurism with road-going elegance. A prominent egg crate grille that added an upscale touch. Inside, the Thunderbird offered bucket seats and a console layout that gave drivers the feeling of piloting a jet cockpit. It was as much about style and comfort as it was about performance.
The 1960 Thunderbird didn't just look futuristic. It packed plenty of muscle under the hood to back up its luxury credentials. Engine options included standard 352 cubic inch V8 rated at around 300 horsepower. Optional 430 cubic inch 7.0 Lincoln V8, good for about 345 horsepower. A huge motor for a personal coupe. Transmission choices included a 3-speed manual, but most buyers opted for the Cruise-O-Matic automatic, which better suited the Thunderbird's relaxed, confident cruising style. Even with its bulk, the Thunderbird handled well for its class, and its highway ride was smooth, quiet, and composed, a testament to Ford's commitment to comfort. The 1960 T-Bird came loaded with features that would have made other American cars jealous. Options and highlights included power steering and brakes as standard on most models, air conditioning, power windows, and power seats as popular upgrades, swing-away steering wheel, introduced in 1961 but previewed in concept, showing Ford's attention to driver ergonomics. This wasn't just a car you drove, it was a car you experienced. When Ford expanded the Thunderbird into a 4-seater in 1958, some critics feared it would lose its sporty character. But the move proved prescient. Sales soared. By 1960, Thunderbird production exceeded 92,000 units, a massive increase over the early 2-seater years. The car had carved out a new niche, the personal luxury car. It wasn't a full-size sedan, nor was it a sports car. It was something in between, stylish, exclusive, and aimed at upwardly mobile buyers who wanted to stand out. The second-generation Thunderbird also helped inspire competitors like the Buick Riviera, Oldsmobile Toronado, and even the later Lincoln Continental Mark series. In the post-war boom of the late 50s and early 60s, the Thunderbird became a status symbol. It was frequently seen in movies, owned by celebrities, and featured in advertisements that exuded class, style, and the American dream. The 1960 model in particular is remembered for being the best-selling of the second-gen run, and it marked a transition into the more angular, sophisticated look of the 1961 third-generation T-Bird. The 1960 Ford Thunderbird was not just a car, it was a statement. With its bold styling, V8 performance, and emphasis on comfort, it created an entirely new class of vehicle. Today, it's remembered as a milestone model in American automotive history, a perfect blend of jet-age design, road presence, and luxury. While it may not have been a raw muscle car or a nimble sports coupe, the T-Bird's appeal lay in its dalliance: power without pretense, style without overstatement, and luxury without being ostentatious. For collectors and enthusiasts, the 1960 Thunderbird remains a timeless example of what made early 1960s American cars so special. They were rolling works of art built for the open road.